The story begins with a beautiful girl named Sarah who was sitting in her car talking to her boss. Sarah's boss's name was Chris and Sarah was his assistant. Chris was a famous movie star. People were crazy about him to get a glimpse of him. Today he was having an argument with Sarah on some issue. Actually, Chris was a complete girl. He would make relationships with girls for some time and then break the relationship with them by giving them an expensive gift. Even today, he did the same with a girl named Shelley. And now Sarah is asked to bring back the underwear and vest from Shiley's house, hearing which Sarah starts abusing her. She says that now she can't do this dirty work anymore. It was clear from her words that Sarah wanted to work for Chris. After some time Sarah comes to her home and as soon as she comes, she sits in the lap of her mother Livia. She was upset with Chris, so she wanted to rest in her mother's lap. Soon it became night. Sarah went to her room. I was in and then she got a call from Chris. Chris wanted Sarah to buy food for him because whenever he went to the store, his fans surrounded him. Sarah quickly came to the store and started buying food while Chris was still talking to her. Chris asks her to come tomorrow morning at exactly 8 a.m. with her luggage, but Sarah is late to meet her friend. Due to Sarah's late arrival, Chris does not open the door, so Sarah gets very angry at him. She climbs on the door. Forced into Chris's house, she enters and tells Chris that I have brought all your stuff but now I really can't work with you. She starts packing her stuff. Chris tries to stop her but Sarah doesn't agree. In fact Chris is completely kept making Sarah do useless work, so she was leaving the job. After some time, Sarah reached her home. She tells everything to her mother that I left Chris's job, on which Livia explains to her that you can do whatever you feel is right. Do the same, I will always be with you. On the other hand, Chris was very upset without Sarah because he was used to getting everything done by Sarah. After Sarah's departure, he realized how much he had troubled Sarah, so he went to meet Sarah at her house the very next day. Inside the house, Livia was cleaning while listening to songs. When the door did not open even after ringing the bell several times, Chris himself came inside, while from the sound of the door, Livia felt that a thief had entered the house. She was trying to do the washing of the thief. Makes preparations but as soon as her eyes fall on Chris, she gets nervous because it is not a thief but it was her daughter Sarah's boss who had come to meet her. When Chris asks, Livia tells Chris that Sarah is not at home at the moment. Sarah had important work to do so he decides to wait for her. Livia makes Chris sit and quickly comes to her room, gets fully dressed and comes in front of Chris. Sarah was with her writer friend Molly, while Livia and Chris were here. While roaming around the house, when asked by Chris, Livia tells that I am a writer and many of my books have been published. Chris was surprised to hear this because Sarah had never told him this. After seeing the house, both of them started drinking alcohol and along with drinking, both of them talk a lot. Livia tells that my husband died in an accident 10 years ago, since then I have not allowed any man to come close to me, I have even forgotten to kiss. A little more she had just drunk alcohol, so they both started coming closer to each other and Chris started teaching her how to kiss. Today, for the first time after 10 years, someone kissed Livia, so a storm started brewing in her cave and she pounces on Chris. Bringing him to her room, she first takes off her clothes and then tears his shirt. They had just started when Sarah came back home. She put a grape in her mouth and started moving towards Livia's room, calling her door. When she opens it, she sees her mother riding Chris. She screams loudly and the grape gets stuck in her throat and she hits the wall and becomes unconscious. After some time, Sarah was in the hospital. She had told her mother to stay away from her boss. She says while Livia said that there is no need to convince you so badly, we were just quenching our thirst. Meanwhile the doctor came and started seeing Sarah and then Chris also comes there because his fans have gathered in the waiting room. The doctor did his work as soon as he saw Chris. After leaving, he started talking to her because he was also a big fan of hers whereas Sarah started getting angry after seeing this. After some time when they come home, Chris tells Sarah that I want you to come back to work but Sarah refuses. She says that if I come back to work now, people will say that my mother got me the job by sleeping with my boss. Chris explains to her that I did not come here to quench my thirst with your mother, but I am the truth. I came to meet you all my life. She tells the boss that the incident you have done with my mother should not happen again. Hearing this, Chris promises her that this will never happen. A few days later, Chris was shooting and Sarah was also with him. On the same night, Livia she was working on a new book and meanwhile she gets a message from Chris. He wanted to meet Livia but Livia refuses. Chris says that I just want to talk to you. Hearing this, she agrees and after getting well dressed, Chris reached to meet Sarah was working with Molly on Chris's script while Livia was in a hotel room with Chris. Both of them promise each other that what happened that day will never happen again. After having food, they start drinking alcohol, and while drinking alcohol, both of their bodies start burning, after which both of them forget their promise and start again. Soon, Chris starts banging in Livia's cave. Made it late when Livia returns home at night, she meets Sarah. When she asks, Livia tells that she had gone to have dinner with Chris. Sarah says that she only ate food or did something else too. Hearing this, Livia started explaining to her that Chris is a good person, you are the one who is misunderstanding him. Saying this, she came to her room and called her mother-in-law and started telling her about Chris. She also told her about Sarah that she does not like Chris because he is her boss. Livia's breath him she explains that if you like Chris then you don't need to listen to anyone. Livia was feeling very good by talking under her breath, and she also decided to move ahead with Chris. Both of them started loving each other. They used to stay together the whole day, have a lot of fun with each other and even cool down their heat whenever they get a chance. Both of them were very happy with each other, while Sarah still did not like her boss. Meanwhile, one evening Sarah comes to know that Livia Chris. Seeing her writing the script for she started getting very angry because Livia had not told her anything about this. On the other hand, Livia had come to a party with Chris. Sarah also got ready and reached the party and started arguing with Livia. She tries to make her understand but Sarah's anger. So she was on cloud 9. She didn't want to listen to Livia. When Chris tried to explain things to Sarah, Sarah started abusing her too. At this moment Sarah felt like shooting Chris. Take his life because Sarah had started feeling that due to the arrival of Chris, Livia has started moving away from her. Hearing Sarah's words, Livia also gets angry and she also starts abusing her, after which Sarah leaves her house and goes to the house of one of her friends. On the other hand, Livia had come to her mother-in-law's house to celebrate Christmas. Shortly after, Sarah also came to her grandmother's house so that the whole family could celebrate Christmas together. Sarah was still angry with Livia. She tells her grandmother that Chris not a good man. Hearing this, her grandmother explains to her that Livia never thought about herself after your father's death. She has always loved only you. If today she has fallen in love with Chris, then we should join her happiness. Meanwhile Sarah's eyes fall on Livia who was welcoming Chris. At night, the whole family starts eating dinner together. Livia's mother-in-law also likes Chris and Chris was also very happy to meet her. After the meal, both the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law sit together. Starts talking. Livia tells that Sarah's father wanted to divorce her because she was having an affair with someone else, but before he could get the divorce, he died and no one came to know about her affair the very next day after celebrating Christmas. The day they started going back, when Sarah started putting things in Chris's car, she found the same gift in the car which Chris used to give to break up with girls. Sarah understood that now he is going to break up with her mother. First Sarah. She doesn't say anything, but when they all come back home Sarah can't control herself and she shows the gift to Livia and tells her that whenever Chris breaks up, he gives the same gift to the girl and now he is going to do the same with you too. Livia believes Sarah, and she asks Chris to leave her house. A few days later, it was New Year but no one was happy. Meanwhile, Sarah comes to meet Chris at his house. Here Chris tells her that I did not want to break up with your mother. So I love him so much. Shelley had returned the gift and I had forgotten to take it out of the car. Sarah also understood that Chris is a good person and he really loves her mother very much, so to improve his mood, she took him to a store. On the other hand, Sarah's grandmother reaches the store with Livia. As soon as Livia comes inside, her eyes fall on Chris and both of them start getting surprised after seeing each other. Actually, all this was the plan of the grandmother and granddaughter so that Livia and Chris got it. Sarah apologizes to both of them for her mistake and goes away from there. At the end of the story, Livia also forgives Chris and with this story ends. Thank you very much for watching our video. If you are crazy about such videos then please subscribe my channel. See you in the next video. Till then. Goodbye.